Welcome to the Inside Line with Sixsock. I'm delighted to say we have Sixsock brand partner on the call today, Padraic Mannion. Padraic, great to have you on the show. We've never met, so lovely to meet you.
You too, Alan.
Good. It's look, if we take a look back at maybe the year gone by first, and a couple you beat Kilkenny in the group stages, ultimately lost Kilkenny in the Leinster final, and then went on to lose to Limerick in that, who obviously went on to win the three in a row. Great team, but lost to them in an epic All-Ireland semi-final that ebbed and flowed and probably could have went either way in the end. Just give us your thoughts on how you thought the year went for you.
I think overall when you lose a semi-final or when you're level in a semi-final with just a couple of minutes to go, it's the number one feeling is kind of disappointment. But when you look back at it as a whole, like, you have to take some positives from it too, that we're not a million miles away. Our Leinster campaign throughout the group, I think we played fairly well, and we probably got a bit of luck as well in a few close results we came through. But then again, ultimately losing the Leinster final was disappointment as well. We responded very well in the quarterfinal then to get back. So overall, I think it's just a mix, really. Like, some disappointment, but when you look at it as a whole, there is some positives there too.
There's positives to take out of it, yeah. And I suppose towards the end of last year, you were obviously dealt the blow with Joe retiring, but I suppose Henry Shefflin kind of coming in to manage a team then probably gave a bit of a boost and stuff. Just talk to us a little bit about Henry and maybe what has he brought to the group. And look, everyone knows the credentials that Henry has, and he from a playing perspective, obviously, and he's obviously had a lot of success managing Ballyhale over the last number of years. But it was his first foray into county management, and I actually met him recently, and he said he did find it a challenge initially, kind of going in, and it's obviously a step up from managing a club team, and but all in all, he looks to have brought a lot to the team, and again, kind of going into next year, probably hoping to build on that. Just tell us a little bit about Henry.
Yeah, like, there's such respect for him as a player, and I think anyone around my age, that was even when we were growing up, we used to always just watch that Kilkenny team, and in particular him. So there's obviously great respect and admiration for him. He's such an honest person. Like, if he will praise when it's required, and he'll pull you up on something if that's required as well. And I think that's, people just appreciate that just the honesty that he has. But the team that is around him as well, obviously, is like the way the county scene is now, that one man on his own, it's like it doesn't really work anymore. It's the team he's around him, and he's built a really good team around him. But we were talking about this before, and I said, like, it's even top class team like that doesn't even guarantee any success. It's the team, the management teams, the players, it's everyone going the right way. So look, we have to row in behind them and try and go a little bit further. But yeah, obviously you have to start from scratch again. Everyone goes back to the beginning and starts again. You're not guaranteed a semi-final place or anything like that again. So just get back at it, and hopefully that we can start and improve and be very consistent again.
Yeah, I suppose that's all you can do is when you come back at the start of the year, and I suppose I was in that position lots of time myself, where you face losses and you have a couple of weeks where you're down, and then you have to pick yourself up, and you kind of come back again. There's no doubt Galway are in the top 3 or 4 in the country, and I think Henry will be hoping to build on the kind of bits of success you had last year. But you just mentioned success there. Let's just rewind a few years if we can. And you made your debut in 2015, and look, you've in what have you now 2022, 6-7 years, you've won 3 All-Stars in that time. He's obviously won All Ireland in 2017. So you have kind of both personally and kind of collectively in Galway, as I've had a fair bit of success. But let's take us back to 2017, and obviously the epic, again, an epic semi-final against Tipperary, was it?
Yeah, Tip, yeah.
Yeah, where Joe Canning got the score in the last minute, obviously beating Waterford then in the All-Ireland final. Like, you were young enough at that stage. The guy played for 10 years before I got to an All-Ireland final, and you thought you were never going to get to it. I suppose you win one after you were 2 or 3 years into your inter-county career, and you think it's gonna come along every year. Then after that, obviously it doesn't happen like that. But let's just and then winning All-Ireland with your brother as well is obviously similar to myself, is a huge thing for the family and the club and the parish and stuff. Just take us back to 2017, if you will, a little bit, and just tell us about how important that was for yourself and the family and the club and the county, obviously.
Yeah, like it's just probably for some of the older lads, even more so than me, just the relief of, you know, because like there is such an expectation there to win All Ireland or whatever, but just to finally win one for Galway and for the supporters and for like the genuine supporters and like people who were involved with you up along, it's just to finally win one for all of them. It's just an unbelievable feeling, really. But yeah, you like. I don't think, in fairness, I don't think we took it for granted that we would win, that it was going to come every year, Anthony. I don't think, like, you obviously think you're good enough every year, but I don't think we took it for granted. And we went really hard at it the following year again. We were really hungry to go and win something again. We just fell that little bit short in the final. But yeah, it's obviously when, was it 5 years now since that? Would have liked to have another one or two since, but
another one or two in the bag since then, yeah.
But they're very hard won, and that's the way it goes. You just have to keep trying to learn every year, and even learn from 2017 and 18, and you're nearly still tapping into them learnings from back then for now. So you just have to go again and try and improve every year, and see hopefully that you'll get a little bit of luck along the way as well.
Yeah, and that All Ireland was obviously tinged. It was I wouldn't say tinged, but it was quite emotional as well afterwards. No, Dahi Burke made a speech and he mentioned Tony Keady in the speech, and obviously Niall Donoghue as well. So it was I think, and for outsiders looking in, it was Galway probably hadn't won an All Ireland. When was Galway's last All Ireland before that?
In '88.
88. So for a county like Galway, it was a long time as well. So it was quite emotional as well, was it?
Yeah. The day or two after the semi-final, Tony Keady passed away, right? And he'd be a huge figure in Galway now, and he was actually over. He was actually over my club team at the time, so I kind of got to know him even better that year. But yeah, it was a massive shock. Like, and then kind of All Ireland was, you had such a sense of like, yeah, we have to do it for him, because he would have been, like, anyone that knew him kind of definitely felt a bit of that, because he was such a passionate Galway man. And then some of the older lads who were involved with Niall Donoghue back in 2012, 2013, like, it was definitely an emotional moment for them as well. Because just like, everyone has their own people that they know that they kind of wanted to do it for as well.
I suppose that's what makes it special. It can bring people together like that. Yeah. If we move on a couple of years, then you were made captain in 2020, I think, was it?
Yeah.
And I captained Dublin for a year or two as well in 2008. So I suppose for yourself and for your family and stuff, it was a huge honour.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to be asked to do. And when you're asked, they're kind of saying, "Do you want to accept it or not?" And you're like, "Sure, I can't." You can't really turn that opportunity down. But with the way the 2 years went, like, it is disappointing that the way the first year we lost the semi-final to Limerick again, and the second year then we got knocked out very early. So it was disappointing. And I think maybe when you're captain, you probably feel a little bit more responsibility as well. Could you have helped lads a bit more, or could you have done anything? But you just, as I said before, you just have to try and learn from it yourself, and just, you have to kind of be able to move on from it, because if it'll nearly eat you up too much if you don't. So yeah, it is like massive honour to be asked to do it, but ultimately I do see it as a bit disappointing for them 2 years. But that's the way it goes.
I suppose you dream of walking up those steps as the captain, don't you? That's the holy grail. It didn't happen for me either, if it makes you feel any better. Tell us a little bit about, obviously yourself and Cathal played together now, and look, was a question I was often asked about the what's it like playing with your brother, and you have a third brother as well. I was just reading something yesterday that I saw a quote from. He's in China, is he?
Yeah, he's in Shanghai. He's there a good few years now, so he.
Yeah, I saw a quote from you that said he's probably better than you, is he?
He definitely was when he was around the minor age anyway, but I think he's had his cruciate done 3 times now, both knees, like, so. But he still ended up playing after that again, like, with the club and that, so.
He kept going.
Yeah, he was.
A similar sort of story. Obviously, myself and Bernard played, and my younger brother Paul was on the All Ireland panel in 2011, and he's had 3 cruciates as well. So he probably would have done. probably would have done a bit better if
Yeah.
you hadn't. Look, it's hard to come over those injuries, yourself. But how did you find playing with Colin now, or is he just another member of the team, or have you he's obviously, I found Bernard played in the full forward line, I played in the half forward line. We had a very good understanding without ever talking about it much, and you're kind of similar, playing around midfield, half back line or whatever, and Colin playing in the forwards and stuff. Have you a good understanding on the field, or do you talk about it? Or?
We would talk about small things probably just because you're in his company more as well. But there, you would find that you think about the game similar to what he does, and even on the pitch, if you get the ball, you nearly know if his movement, if he's on or if he's not. But I think the biggest what makes it the biggest benefit of it is probably this time of the year, if you're doing a bit of training on your own, just to have someone, to have Cahill there to be doing it with, it's definitely a benefit, as opposed to doing it on your own. If you're doing a bit of running, or even if you're in the gym, or if he pushes a little bit harder, you definitely want to push a little bit harder to keep up with him. So I think that's definitely, it makes it a bit easier this time of the year. But yeah,
are you doing a bit together?
Yeah, just doing a small bit. Trying this time of the year, we kind of do a bit more gymming, and when you're pushing on the years, you need to keep a bit of running going as well, or you lose it a bit easier than you would have before.
Yeah, has the gym? I suppose you look at you look at Limerick now, and I suppose, if you don't mind me saying, they're probably the ones that are up there to be knocked off their perch. But there's no doubt that the kind of physicality of that Limerick team, and obviously the time they've invested in the gym and stuff. Has the gym become more important the last couple of years off the back of how powerful Limerick are? Has it always been there?
I think for us it was always there anyway. Well, since I've gone in with Galway, the seniors, it's always been the same, really. A massive part of it as well now is just building your body up to be able to train fairly hard when you go back. And I'd be kind of light myself, so I just need to keep a bit going, or I'd lose muscle fairly easy if I don't keep it going. So that's kind of the reason I do it. But yeah, Limerick they're obviously very big and physical, but I still think it's probably still their hurling that's as good as anything. I don't think just being big and strong isn't going to win you anything on its own. It definitely helps. But the injury prevention part of it is huge, especially as you get a bit older. Just being able to stay on the pitch for the whole year is massive.
Yeah, it is, and it's no mean feat now. The way teams are training so hard, and 4, 5, 6 days a week to kind of keep yourself fit. And as you say, particularly as you get older, and head into the late 20s, whatever, into your 30s, it becomes a little bit more difficult. Let's just take us back at the kind of moving on, say, to during COVID and stuff. How did you find playing in the grounds with no fans? I think this time 2 years ago you beat Tipperary in an All Ireland nearly to the week. You beat Tipperary in an All Ireland quarter final. Ultimately lost the semi final to Limerick, but I think both games were played behind closed doors, were they?
Yeah. Well, personally, I coming up to the games, I just blocked it out of my head that there was no fans, or I tried to get myself up as much as I could. But looking back from now, and the year that we played with the fans, you do realise, how different it is. And you don't hear that roar or whatever. But at the time, I did try to nearly block that out, as if it doesn't matter. You're nearly going to do a job or whatever. And I think you probably most lads probably did something like that to just so that it wouldn't be an issue for them. But looking back now, when it's all over, you do realise just how special it is to have a full Croke Park, or to have a full Thurles, or whatever stadium it is.
Yeah, and I often found when you went out, particularly into Croke Park, when you went out, you'd obviously notice the crowd, but as soon as the game started, the crowd kind of drifted into the background. But in saying that, I think if they weren't there, you would have realised that they weren't there. And if you ever played, I played some league games in Croke Park, where I said it'd be a smaller crowd, and it can be quite eerie sometimes in Croke Park. So, and obviously an atmosphere can kind of dictate the way a game ebbs and flows and stuff. So I'm sure it was something. Was it something you would have spoken about in in the change room beforehand, and how you would deal with that compared to, say, a full crowd in Thurles or a full crowd in Croke Park?
I don't think we spoke about it a whole lot. No. The one thing I noticed was, if let's say if someone shoots from the sideline and you know from the crowd if it's over or not. Whereas when there was no crowd, so if you didn't see the umpire or if you were turned to go the other way, sometimes you wouldn't know if like was that a score, was it wide. It's a small thing like that I actually found that you wouldn't know as much about what's happening up the far end of the pitch. Let's say if you're in the full back line or just the crowd for scores, and that does tell you a lot.
Yeah. And the difference between that couple of years, it was back to straight knockout, wasn't there? Was qualifiers, but that compared to the round robin series now, what's your preference?
Oh yeah, I love the round robin anyway, just for the games, like, and
those games,
yeah. Even if you play one week and you get a win or a loss or whatever happens, you have no choice, and you get up and go again the following week. And I think the games are better because teams don't have as much time to plan, or you nearly just have to focus on yourself, which definitely makes teams. It's more attractive to watch than whereas if you had 4 or 5 weeks leading to play someone, you could be overly focused on trying to stop them or whatever. But I think it definitely leads to more free-flowing games.
Yeah, I recall it. We used to have 3 or 4 weeks between games, and God, you'd be flogged back in the training field for 2 weeks of that, and then you get back into playing a bit of football, and there'd be analysis coming out on opposition teams all over the place. So it probably is I have to say I like it too now. Kind of playing games every week straight. And the only thing is, you say, trying to keep injuries at bay and stuff. If you pick up an injury, you can miss. All of a sudden, you can miss.
That is like even
half a season.
A dead leg or something. If you had a game the following week, could put you out for a game. But that's the only risk with it. All right.
Padraic, it would be a little, as a dub, it'll be a little bit remiss of me not to ask about Michael Donoghue. I think we'll play Dublin in the fifth game of the Leinster Championship next year. The dates haven't been decided and stuff, but that's the last game of the round robin. It could be an important game, and you'd be facing back in against the manager that did help you deliver that All-Ireland final in 2017. Have Dublin bagged a good one there?
Yeah, definitely. Dublin have got a good setup there now. Obviously, there's huge respect and Galway for Micheál and the team who finally brought the All-Ireland back. But like, when it comes to it, the last game of the round robin, and you're up in Parnell Park and the ball is thrown in, I think all that is irrelevant when you're playing. So, like, it is a bit of noise, and it's something for the supporters to a bit of a build up or whatever. But I think as a player, you don't get caught up in it, and like in the middle of, as you said about the crowd and the heat of championship, that stuff just goes out the window. It's not even in your head. So, I don't think it'll be too many lads thinking about it too much when we're up in Parnell Park. But yeah, it's definitely Dublin have definitely got a good setup there now.
Good, yeah, it'll make that game a little bit more interesting for sure. So look, Padraic, thanks for coming on the inside line today. I think for any Galway supporters out there, have a look at sixlock.com and check out the Galway collection designed by Padraic. Make a lovely Christmas present for any Galway fans at home or abroad. So look, Padraic, thanks for coming on the show. Wish you all the best for next year, apart from that match against the Dubs, the 5th game of the Leinster Championship. Look forward to that, but wish you the very best going into the start of the National League next year.
Thanks, Alan.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.